It's my feel-good breakfast show.
For our parenting slot this morning, we're talking about decoding the world around us. Now, we all know that you had to be able to decode hieroglyphics in order to understand the Great Pyramids of Egypt. But have you ever considered that our world today is encoded as well? And it's for that very reason that our children need to become decoding experts in order to be successful in their adult lives. And to talk more about this morning, we're joined in studio by creative parenting expert Nikki Bush. Nikki, lovely to see you again. Are you well?
Thank you, Ewan. Yes, I am.
Cool.
Thank you.
Not too bad. All right, so decoding the world around us. When we say that our world is encoded, what are we actually saying?
It's encoded in language. And if children don't acquire language, they can't interact with the world. They first acquire it by hearing your voice. And of course, they start babbling, and then it becomes little mamas and dadas, and then it becomes words. But it is also about being able to read. And reading starts actually with playing with shapes, as your son probably is doing so now that he's nearly 3.
Absolutely.
So shape games are big. And the reason why shape is so important is that shape is made up of line. So we've got here a diagonal line in the diamond, a curve in the circle, and we've got straight lines in your squares and your rectangles, and look how they translate into the words here. We have a curve from the circle in the A, we have a side of a square in the A, and we have a long side that comes from a rectangle, and so it goes. So as children are physically manipulating shape and seeing shape, they're actually learning the basis of what makes up the letters. Then letters make up words, and words make up sentences, and sentences make up paragraphs, and paragraphs, as in all books, then make up the story. So children need to be able to break things down and build things up in order to make sense of language. And our responsibility as parents is to build a bridge of words for our children.
I see, and it's a very interesting the way you explain it. It's almost like a big, giant puzzle that you piece together from a young age going into adulthood as well. Now, this is interesting. I mean, you kind of lost me on the whole squiggly bits and with the word cats. But how would you go about teaching this decoding methods to your children in a fun and a way that they can actually understand it?
Well, firstly, it starts off with conversations. So we talk our children clever. Talk all the time.
Yeah.
Secondly, storytelling. So children love stories. Every night get into that ritual of reading a bedtime story because that gives them a love of language, because they get involved and engaged in the story and all the drama that unfolds in a story. And then, of course, once they can read themselves, listening to their reading, even if it's broken and slow to begin with, you need to really applaud it. And they come home with their first book, and it's too funny for words. It's 16 pages of one word. Look! And you've got to get so excited with 16 pages, and they feel so empowered with this ability to read, even though they've only learnt one word. There's a lot of repetition that goes on in reading. And then something that I'm sure you're very good at with your son is telling stories out of your imagination.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be out of a book. And my husband taught me this little trick. I remember walking in on him one day. My son was about 3. He was sitting on Dad's lap, and he was wearing little slippers that had a little train on them. And my husband was waxing lyrical about this little train and had made it into a story. So I learned how to do this as well. And I remember putting my niece to bed one evening, and her name's Julia. And I remember telling a story about a dolphin called Julia and what it was doing in the waves and whatever. And children love to be part of that story. If you can put them in the story, it just brings it alive.
Also, they can help tell the story eventually.
100%. You teach them storytelling skills, which is fantastic. And then you were telling me you took your son off somewhere the other day.
I like to try and, whenever you go out, it doesn't matter what you do. Just recently we went to like this outdoors park. There's animals that you can encounter with. I try and make that, fun as well, and teach him a little bit about, the names and shapes and colors and that kind of stuff.
So when you were going home, or even now, you can use that as a wonderful revisit the memory. So you can play the memory game. We went to the park and we saw, or we went to the zoo and we saw a giraffe. And then as they get older, it becomes the memory game. We went to the zoo and we saw a giraffe, and then you might say a lion. Now, I've got to remember, I went to the zoo, I saw a giraffe, a lion, and an elephant. So we revisit what we've done. And when children have had a concrete experience, a real physical experience where they've been somewhere, it's real. It's different to looking at it in a picture book.
That's it.
And then we've got word association games to build vocabulary. And this is a fun one. So if I say blue, what do you say to blue?
Red.
I say strawberry.
I'll say banana.
I'll say yellow.
I'll say green.
I'll say grass.
I'll say cut it.
You can do it, not me.
No, but this is great. I mean, definitely a lot of fun. I'm so glad to hear that I'm actually doing something right.
I'm sure you're doing plenty right.
Nikki, thanks so much. This is a lot of fun, just helping our kids become those decoding experts. And if you do teach your kids to become that decoding expert, you'll be going a long way to developing a great communicator.